So we're now going to look at subtracting integers. We did, in the first lesson, we looked at adding integers that have the same sign. And if you remember, we had 3 plus 5 and negative 3 plus negative 5. We use counters to show, let me use green, I don't have yellow. We use counters to show that 3 plus 5 was 8. You guys probably can't see that very well. Let me change the green. This one's better. And over here we had 3 negatives plus 5 negatives gave us a total of 8 negatives. We looked at this with a number line, and we also saw that when we added a negative, we're subtracting. So if we're starting at negative 3, but we're adding negative 5, we're going backwards on the number line to get to negative 8. Thinking about this same concept, you can use counters and number lines to represent subtracting integers. So let's look at 3 plus negative 5 and how that compares to 3 minus 5. Well, if we were on a number line, we would start at positive 3, but we would be adding negative 5. So we're adding, but we're adding the opposite. So we're going left. So if we start here, that's 2, 1, 0, negative 1, negative 2. Our answer is negative 2. Let's do the same thing on a number line. We start at 3. We subtract 5. 1, 2, 3 puts us at 0. 4, 5 puts us at negative 2. These have the same value because when we add a negative, we are subtracting. We're subtracting a positive. So because these mean the same thing, we can actually rewrite every single subtraction problem as an addition problem. And this is going to be helpful when, instead of 3 minus 5, what if it's 3 minus negative 5? So let's do another example, and then we'll come back to that one. I have 4 minus 2. I know that 4 minus 2 is 2. But now I need to rewrite this as an addition problem, just to get my mind thinking and practicing about what this is going to mean later. 4 minus 2 is the same as 4 plus negative 2. Still gives us 2. Looking at this, we can see that so subtraction is adding the opposite number. I'm going to say that again. When you subtract, you are adding the opposite number. So instead of minus 2, we are adding negative 2 because we're changing this sign to addition. And instead of it being a positive 2, we're now adding a negative, and it's the same thing. So let's do one more like that. We'll take 10 minus 12. Well, I know that that's negative 2, but now when we think of it as an addition problem, it's 10 plus negative 12. And now I can remember on a number line, I would be starting at 10, and I'm adding a negative, so I'm going left. 10 of those is going to put me at 0. 2 more, and now I'm at negative 2. I went from subtracting a positive to adding the opposite, which is a negative. Let's apply that same concept over here. Subtraction is adding the opposite. So here's subtraction. We're going to change this to adding the opposite. Opposite of negative 5 is positive 5. So this answer is 8. But how does that look on a number line? Let's try it. Let's start with the original. We started at positive 3. Now, applying this concept of subtraction, I know my answer is 8. So I want my 3 over here because I want room to move to the right 5. If I'm at 3, how do I take away 5 negatives? Let's look at that with counters because that's a bit confusing. How do I take away 5 negatives? I'm going to move this over a little bit. I have 3 positives. How do I take away 5 negatives? I don't have any negatives. I don't have any. But I can make 0 pairs. A positive and a negative together is 0. How many negatives do I need to take away? I need 5. So I need 5 0 pairs. So now I'm going to add to this. Which way do I want to do this? I'll do it this way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If I put 5 negatives, I put my 5 positives with it to make it balance out. You see now how we have our 3, and we have 5 0 pairs. This is still 3 plus 0. This is 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. So this is still 3. I haven't changed the value of this. But now I can take away my 5 negatives. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What's left? Positive 8. Let's look back at the number line. I have 3. I can't take away negative 5 because I don't, I mean, I can go back 5, but how do I take that away? So I need to rewrite this as addition, and that means I'm adding 5. And here's the model that makes sense for that. Here's what proves why we actually are adding 5 instead of subtracting it, because we're subtracting the opposite, or adding the opposite. Not subtracting the opposite. We are adding the opposite of what's in here. So this puts us at 8. We're going to start off with practice problems that have you converting your subtraction to addition. And then if you need to, once you're comfortable doing that, then it's easier to show that representation with a number line. But the counters are a good way to do it starting from here also. So you've got multiple avenues that you can make sense of this. Do your modeling in your math notebook as you need to. I would definitely do it in the beginning, the first several problems, just to get the thinking going. And we'll talk about this in class next time you come in.